we'll make a start. Thank you very much for joining this briefing session on the Register of Sheep Advisors. So this session's aimed towards press and stakeholders. So really the main objective is just to build awareness of what the register is, what we're trying to do, and where to go next really for its official launch on the 1st of June. So my name's Liz Jennifer. I'm here on today's webinar. I've been involved in the development of the scheme. We're also joined by Stephen Jacob, who is the CEO of BASIS, and Phil Stocker, who is the CEO of NSA. So it's a joint initiative between both BASIS and NSA. So the plan of what we're going to go through is what is RoSA? It's a good question to start off with. Who is it for? Why is it needed? How will it work? When will it launch, and what do you need to do now? The main focus of this webinar is the Q&A. So as we go through, if you've got any burning questions, please type them in the Q&A function that you can find at the bottom of your screen, and we'll deal with them all at the end. So we've got a few slides just to take you through the technicalities, and then there's quite a big opportunity to ask clarifying questions when we get near the end. So the vision for the Register of Sheep Advisors is that we're developing a community of qualified and well-informed advisors who support engaged sheep farmers to become more profitable and sustainable. So that's our clear vision of what we want this register to do. It's and we'll come on to it. It's not necessarily about competing with others who are already offering support to advisors. It's not saying that it is compulsory for farmers to engage with advice. It's just making sure that those relationships between advisors and farmers are as strong as possible and with as much knowledge as possible. So the mission of what the register is aiming to do is the development of a professional continuous development program for sheep advisors, and that's to ensure that sheep farmers can access the best and most appropriate advice to ensure their businesses will be ready for the upcoming opportunities and challenges. It's quite a long sentence, but the concept behind it is the register is the formal structure behind collecting the points that those advisors sort of compile over the year, and demonstrates to the sheep farmers that they work with that they're well informed, got the suitable qualifications, and really engaged with what else is happening within the industry. So the idea of who is the register for, it is really for anybody who is working with sheep farmers and helping those farmers make informed decisions based on evidence or using their information that they've got on farm to improve the productivity and performance of that farm. It's also for anybody who wants to develop their wider knowledge. So it could be independent advisors or consultants, it could be nutritionists, vets, technical reps from commercial companies, SQPs, so suitably qualified people, rammers, technical specialists or environmental advisors. It is for anybody really working with sheep farmers or wanting to build their knowledge of sheep production systems. We'll go into a bit more detail about this in a moment, but we've got two categories of membership. So full members are for those who are more experienced, and associate are for those who are just starting on their journey or wanting to develop a career as an advisor in the sheep sector. The key part of this, and again we'll have Stephen will run through that in a bit more detail shortly, is that we're also needing to work alongside training providers to ensure their activity is registered for points. So as RoSA members turn up to an event, they can be allocated points for that activity. So I'm just handing you over to Phil now, who'll just take you through why it is needed.
Thank you very much, Liz, and good afternoon, everyone. Before I start, can I say that there's only very, very short-term benefits in pulling photographs out from photograph libraries. And when we get to meet again, we'll realise that we've all gotten a lot older in that time. But anyway, the question that I'm facing here is why do we believe that RoSA is needed? And there's a definite link here with our departure from the European Union, and much of this, I guess, relates to the fact that Britain now is starting on a new journey of our own regulatory control around agriculture, trade, food policy, and the environment as well. And with the agricultural transition plan clearly showing that there's going to be a reduction in basic payment scheme over the next 7 years, you know, it's going to bring farmers' minds sharply into focus, I think, about the need to meet the two challenges that are coming from the government, which are to increase the efficiency and the productivity of our enterprises so that they become less reliant on support, financial support, but at the same time deliver and tap into a new suite of farm support schemes that we'll see first of all from England in terms of the future farming scheme, things like the Health and Welfare Pathway and ELMS, the Environmental Land Management Scheme. But while those are first of all being seen in England, we're very confident that they will follow similar approaches, will follow in other parts of Britain as well. So with our departure from the European Union, we're seeing a whole range of new policy areas, the reduced basic payment, and then the introduction of new schemes. And that is going to create opportunities and challenges for sheep farmers. And I think that sharpening of focus in terms of enterprise efficiency will create the point where it is the time for farmers to question whether they should or are able to continue carry on doing the same, or whether they need to change their businesses in any way. And we believe that the time is right now for there to be a support network of advisors, of a known entity that can give guidance to farmers in the future, really. It's quite possible that we'll see the taking of advice be a prerequisite to access to grants, things like Pathway and ELMS. I think it's very likely that in the future we'll see some form of advice become a prerequisite, but we also think that from an independent farmer perspective, there will be the appetite for more advice as well. Liz, do you want to move on to the next slide? In terms of the range of skills that we're talking about, I think it's really important to say that we're not competing here with other registers of advisors. This is really to build on what already exists and to create a register which is specific and dedicated to the needs of the sheep industry. And the sheep industry very much works in an integrated and a holistic way. We tend not to work in silos. A lot of our productivity is carried out on exactly the same land areas as where we carry out our environmental management as well. We work in a very holistic system, and so we believe that whilst we accept that there's going to be an ongoing need for specialist skills, there always will be. They should increasingly probably be delivered within the context of a wider understanding of a range of topics. And we also believe that a number of people will want to broaden their skills to encompass all the aspects of productivity that we're looking at as well. So the range of skills that we think are needed are in that area of animal genetics, animal health and welfare, animal nutrition, soil, grass and forage management, diversified incomes. You can see that there's going to be an increased interest in farm businesses becoming more resilient as a whole by diversifying their income sources and their business activities. In that whole area of sustainable agriculture, another area where all of our farming is going to be encouraged to go. And there'll be some big business choices that farmers make in terms of their association with sustainable agriculture, but there'll also be a lot of work to be done in terms of sustainability assessments as well. Business benchmarking to make sure that we're achieving the optimum level of productivity, and personal development and skills as well within the farm business. Areas of succession would be a good example there. So, we believe that the next generation of advisors is going to need to be well equipped in all those areas, and as I said earlier, possibly focusing in one or two areas, but with a broad range of understanding and the ability to maybe identify where additional deeper knowledge is required. And I'll pass back to you, Liz. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. And just Stephen, now, if in terms of the benefits of membership, really.
Thank you very much, Liz. Thank you, Phil. So Stephen Jacob, Chief Executive Basis, and we've been involved in professional development and CPD registers for over 30 years, across a range of number of industries: crop protection, plant nutrition, amenity, and public health pest control as well. And the one thing that all of our members have in common is they want to demonstrate their professional status. Often they've qualified several years ago, either professional qualifications or from university. But how do they demonstrate that currency and that professional status? One of the ways they can do that is through membership of a professional organisation, a professional body like RoSA. And of course, it gives you access to a network of like-minded individuals. It sets the benchmark for the industry as well. So farmers actually know if they go to a RoSA member, what sort of knowledge they're going to get, and that person is keeping current and up to date. But also, as we go through our careers, as we go through our professional development, access to a wide range of training and technical activity is really important. And signposting that activity is incredibly important as well. And I know, you know, it already exists out there. There's an awful lot of good material, both written, access to seminars, there's lots of events, but how do you signpost it and how do you bring it together and coordinate it? And being a member of an organisation like RoSA will provide you with that facility and that signposting to those CPD activities. Developing and building that sort of rounded knowledge base is crucially important for all the reasons that Phil's already mentioned. It's going to be even more important in the future. And I think as we go into the sort of post-EU phase, EU exit, I think this making sure that people have got the right skills to deliver advice on farm is going to be crucially important to our industry. And of course, we're going to continue to create and think about a range of additional benefits to membership, and that's something which can develop with time, but it's making sure that we're reflective of our membership and we're listening to what people want, and we can, you know, evolve as time progresses. Next slide, please, Liz. Thank you. So how will it work? How do the mechanics work? Again, tried and tested methods, really. We know how to sort of, you know, run a CPD scheme. First of all, prospective members go to sheepadvisor.co.uk, which is the website which has been set up. It's going to be launched on the 1st of June, but there's a landing page there now. And you complete the application form. The application form comes through, and that's either as a full member. If you're a full member, you'll be qualified and you'll be actually providing advice and giving advice in the industry. As an associate, you might be a new entrant to the industry, or perhaps somebody who's working on the periphery who wants to be part of the register and wants to get some recognition. Once you've received the result of your application, there's a membership fee, which is £75 per annum, and then you're ready to go, start collecting CPD points. And we use a point-based system because it's a good metric, obviously, to monitor people's progress through the membership, but also it's a way that we can actually provide metrics to authorities as well, such as DEFRA, for example. We can start to monitor that CPD activity which Phil spoke about and the different range of types of activity that there are. And perhaps it gives us an opportunity in the future to steer CPD activity, to actually acknowledge and recognise the gaps in knowledge within the marketplace and within the industry and fill those gaps. There will be a quarterly newsletter which will be full of lots of technical information, and that's going to be a great resource for members. And of course, event promotion, that's signposting to ensure that we get people to events and to activity, and they're aware of the type and range of activity within the industry. And I'll point out that, you know, media partners who have joined us on this call, crucial that you join in this process as well. You'll know that being an event organizer is a very worthwhile thing. And I think if you can take me on to the next slide, Liz, I can talk a bit more about event organizers. So trainers, and that could be people who are actually delivering participated training, sort of full-time training courses, or it could be event organisers, such as people who are providing journals or websites. Register again with BASIS, with RoSA, and make sure you contact us through the sheepadvisor.co.uk platform, and you can join up to become an event organiser. We use a points-based system, and it's tried and tested, and we've got this way, the model that we look at to recognise structured CPD, reflective learning, and sort of self-directed CPD. And that's looking at training objectives, looking at the numbers of people within the training class as well, to see how participative it is, and the length of the training, and of course the content. And we've got a rubric behind the system which awards CPD points to that process. The picture on the right hand side there is our guidance notes, and some very clear guidance notes which we're happy to distribute after this presentation if you'd like to have a copy of those. And I think from a trainer's perspective or an event organizer perspective, if you do get involved, do use the logo, do make sure you're using RoSA to actually promote your own event. For want of a better term, it's currency. It encourages people to engage, encourages people to go down that road of professional development and be part of the event that you might be actually staging and putting on. So like I say, I really encourage you to get involved with us and contact us after this event. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you very much. So the what to do next, really. So the plan really is that the official launch is on as mentioned, is on the 1st of June. And how we're doing that is we have a free technical webinar, which is looking at maintaining lamb performance post-weaning, and that's with Leslie, Pete, Bone and myself. And that you can register for that via the NSA events page, which is the link is on the screen. As Stephen mentioned, there is a website that's being developed and there's a landing page at the moment, but again, you can that will be available from the 1st of June. But in the interim, if you've got any questions or queries about how to register as a training provider or how to get connected to the RoSA sort of network, or the start of the process really is to email the address that's on the screen, and that will be answered by some people are working at Basis, so they'll be able to deal with any sort of technical queries at this stage. So we have, so that's sort of the next steps really. So the whole the next phase, or the next slide really, is about Q&A. Oh, I think I'm just directing myself to a website. So the Q&A. So we've so anybody who's got any questions really on what we've discussed, what I might do is just flick back to that previous slide, just so that people, if you want to get the details of the various bits that we talked about in terms of that, either the website or the email address. So there's been one question through, which I think it coincided with when you were talking about the training providers. So how do we get our training accredited for delivery through RoSA? So I think Stephen, it's basically registered with Basis. So again, going through that email address that's on the screen and getting registered is the sort of thing to do in the next week or so.
Absolutely, Liz, and thank you, Sheila. Yeah, if you register at Basis and you sign up to be a training event organizer, we can provide you access to a web portal where you can upload your events, and then it's our role really to apportion the CPD points that, according to the rubric we have and the methods that we have to provide those CPD points. Then you get an event code, and that's the thing to ensure that we're recording the members who are attending your event against that event code, and that sort of all happens automatically behind the scenes. But we can start to then register delegates who are actually attending your event or your training course.
Thank you. And there's an element of sort of some new processes coming online, isn't there, in terms of apps and all various things that we'll also be engaged with?
We've got a great new digital platform that's going live fairly shortly, actually, and this will be a way that members will be able to see their CPD record in real time. They'll be able to attend events and they'll be able to register in real time. And again, event organisers, it'll be a much simpler, smoother process to register events. It's pretty good at the moment, but it's just getting better. And this is taking advantage of the digital transformation that's going on throughout the whole of our industry and every industry society at the moment.
Thank you. And there's one for Phil really, which is, as it was your idea, why did this come about?
The gestation period for this, like most things, has been fairly long, I guess. And
it's like an elephant.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And it probably was 2 years ago that this came about. And it came about, if anyone's responsible, maybe it is me, but it's from a realization, really, that you know, our industry and farming is going through such a change, and we need to play our part in supporting businesses through that change, really. We know from the NSA that a small number of our members have used advisors for some time, and when they do, most of them come back and say it's been a really worthwhile and fruitful experience. And we also know that the uptake in terms of advice within the sheep industry has been fairly low. So I think it was just a realization that we're living in changing times, and that farmers are going to need more support and guidance and advice you know, as we go forward, really. And we just wanted to make sure that if that is the case, that there is a register, which is what we've developed now, a register of advisors of a known entity. I think the other thing is that the industry for many years, for the last 2 or 3 decades, has relied on a small number of extremely well-known advisors who are well-known in the field, and possibly the succession planning hasn't been what it might have been. And this initiative, I hope, will allow some of that succession to take place. And so from that very early embryonic idea, I guess, we set Liz with the task of putting an idea into practice, and it was part way down the pathway, really, that through a consultation process that Liz spoke to Basis, and from there it just seemed like we were natural partners to develop this. So, yeah.
Thank you. I'll just deal with the next one, which is there any is anybody eligible to register? Yes, and as we've mentioned, it's moving into that sort of full or associate member are the two options. Minimum requirement like a degree, not necessarily. So there is a section within the application form that does list qualifications, but also we capture experiences, the number of clients people are currently working with, if they're working with discussion groups, and other bits in terms of the sort of focus and interest within the industry. So formal qualifications are important, but there's also other bits that are taken into consideration within that application process. And certainly we would welcome people to join, and whether it's just as a way of sort of formalizing the sort of the events they go to and collecting points. They may not necessarily be giving advice to sheep farmers currently, but it might be their long-term aim to move into the advisory world. So yeah, I think we would encourage people to apply. There's I think one for Stephen here.
Yes, hello Sue.
How do you ensure? Yeah, if I just react in case.
If I do the annual points, the thresholds, if you like, for the CPD points category, the question from Sue. Yeah, some of them we've got weightings on them, not all of them, and we've got full guidance notes, and we're quite happy to provide those guidance notes following this meeting as well to ensure. What we're looking to do is get a spread of CPD activity, so people aren't getting all of their CPD through one area, and we do get a sort of more rounded approach to people's professional development or members' professional development. And the question from the anonymous attendee regarding quality assurance, really, what happens when things go wrong? Well, again, you know, say BASIS has been involved in professional development and CPD registers for quite a long time, and we have a professional standards committee and we have a code of ethics for members as well, and that's really quite important. And accompanying that is a complaints procedure. And should a complaint be brought against the member, what we're assessing is whether they acted with integrity and whether or not they've compromised their professional integrity. And that's what we'll be looking at. And like I say, there's a full process behind that, and we can enact that if we need to.
Thank you. I mean, I think, and part of it is that as people register and as points are collected, as you said, we get more information in terms of what categories are being used more, or if there's gaps in terms of training provision, can we work with training providers to help fill that gap? And I think also there's ideas of putting in modules that direct people towards new legislation that might be coming in. So once the register's going, there are ways to sort of influence in terms of the information that's being provided to members, sorry. Okay, so in terms of sorry, I wasn't obviously clear earlier, in terms of the full and associate member. So a full member is tending to be someone who is more experienced, so they may have more formal qualifications or already be a member of existing CPD schemes such as the Feed Advisory Register, or they may be a member of Sheep Vet Society. They may be already actively working with quite a few clients, they may be already running some discussion groups, and they have a clear vision in terms of what they wish to achieve within the sheep sector. The associate member tends to be those who are earlier in their career, less experienced. They may have a couple of clients, they might be running alongside a more experienced advisor, or they might be working towards qualification. So it's sort of given an indication of the experience really of that person, and it's being scored based on their application. And then the second point to that question, which is how can farmers make sure they're using a registered one, which is within the application procedure, there's quite a lot in terms of being able to share the advisor's details, and that the plan of that is to have a map available on the Sheep Advisor's website, where people, if they want to find an advisor near them, or they want to find an advisor with a certain skill set, they can search for them and their contact details will come up. So that is part of that website development piece at the moment. And then another question, I think another one for Stephen really, is there any equivalent registered in other livestock sectors that we can gain insight from?
We've got one that I'm aware of and have been involved with in the past, which is most equivalent, is probably Dairy Pro, and that's for dairy farmers rather than advisors, and that again sort of recognises a full range of CPD activity. And the other one, which I think we should allude to, is the Feed Advisors Register as well, which is very much looking at feed nutrition, animal nutrition, and it's a more specific sort of set of members than perhaps we're looking to identify within RoSA. And I think this, with everything that we do, it's working with industry, it's looking to see where we can collaborate, it's looking to see where we can defragment wherever possible as well, and looking where we can get mutual recognition between different registers. And that's something certainly that we'll be looking to develop over time.
Yeah, and we're just, as you say, we're just starting to sort of build those networks. So we're engaging with the British Institute of Agricultural Consultants, British Society of Animal Scientists, British Grassland Society. So again, recognising members of those organisations and how we can sort of link between and share knowledge between those sort of organisations. And then we've also been working with the people who are already providing those CPD schemes to make sure that the members of them are being recognised if they wish to join RoSA. And Phil, I suppose as a good thing is this is the sheep are leading the way, aren't they, in terms of this, so that we certainly don't have anything within the beef sector, and Dairy Pro does cover dairy advisors, but this is another example of the sheep leading the world.
It's not the first time, is it, Liz? But no, you're absolutely right. And certainly in the grazed livestock sector, we're not aware of anything else. There isn't anything else. Yeah, just to go back to the something Liz was saying, I think the nature of the sheep industry is highly diverse, and I think we recognise that. And in the future, there will be different directions that are taken by different sheep farming businesses, and some will want to go down a very much more productivity focused route, whereas others will want to go down a more environmentally focused route. And that's again where this register will come into play, where people will be able to look for advisors that suit their interests. And this isn't about trying to make the industry homogenous in a way. It recognises the diversity of that industry and allows people to choose from a register that recognises that different people's directions in the future will be different.
Thank you. So one more question that's come in, which is, you need 40 points to be registered fully. What happens in the first instance when you sign on? When do you actually get onto the register? So sorry, again, I didn't clarify it well enough earlier. So you go through an application procedure and you get allocated full and associate membership to continue into year 2. So after you've completed a full 12 months, to remain on the register, you have to have demonstrated you have collected the 40 points. So you will be sort of based on an application procedure be accepted onto the register, but to maintain your position on the register, you have to provide evidence of collecting those points.
I think just one thing to add there, Liz, if somebody joins partway through the register year, the points are prorated, so you're not expected to achieve the full number of points to maintain your membership if you join partway through the year.
I think, as sort of alluded to, which is if the sort of activity you're taking part in is quite participatory, so discussion groups, or you're running discussion groups and also taking part of it, is that those 40 points equates to about 20 hours of training over that year, roughly. I know the point system may change slightly, but really roughly, while a webinar such as this would generally only be awarded 1 point for an hour type approach. So it just gives indication of the sort of ask we're going for in terms of the number of hours that we're asking for people to record for training purposes or development purposes.
And from experience in other sectors, many people are already doing CPD. It's the fact that we're not recording it. We haven't got the ability to do that. But generally speaking, as people start to get involved in the process, they find that they do start to accrue the CPD points really quite rapidly. And it's given them that mechanism to be able to do that, record it and demonstrate it. And that's where the register really comes into its own.
Thank you. A question which is, who is assessing the applications? So there's an NSA staff member working alongside myself to assess those memberships, to do a scoring that is based on a scoring matrix to understand whether full or associate member is appropriate. And those decisions are then looked over by a steering group. So it's those two, myself and another NSA staff member, are doing the initial sort of grading, for want of the better phrase, and then the steering group then sort of is looking after that process.
Liz, it was just saying, could I just come in and say and tell people that this is being done in a really structured and formal way, and the process is that the NSA and BASIS are collectively creating a new company limited by guarantee. So it's being done through a properly formalised structure, and a new business set up with a board of directors and very formal procedures.
So yeah, and there's just that question of who's on the steering group. They're currently being invited, so we're just getting final agreement of who is on the steering group. So we're certainly, by the 1st of June, that will be available, but currently we're just waiting for people to respond. I think that if there's any other questions, so a question from Jan. So has BASIS got a crib sheet of what sort of event activity attracts what points, i.e. one-to-one mentoring versus running a group workshop? Yes, there's within those guidance notes.
Absolutely. Yes, we can provide all of that. And again, we've got staff within the office who are quite happy to talk to you or walk you through the process of how to register an event and how to attract CPD points. So I'm quite happy to provide that support for you, but we have got it within the notes as well.
A question which is, once people have attained those 40 points, is there extra bonus points for going over that 40? Not necessarily, but there is also no mechanism. People can continue to collect points throughout the year. So it's just 40 is certainly the minimum. It's certainly not a maximum level that we'd be looking towards. And again, a question or a sort of point of clarification, which is, this is really aimed at sheep advisors or people who are helping farmers make decisions on farm. They could also be farmers. So we're not saying they only have to be advisors. It's people who are helping others make informed decisions on farm.
Liz, it might be worth adding there that we already know that there are a number of farmers who both farm and give advice, and as part of their future business plans or their career plans, they would like to move further in that direction. So I think we would expect that there will be a number of sheep farmers that would be interested in this register in a way to expand their future career options.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we had a flurry of questions. I think that is clear. So yeah, just to clarify, this will be recorded, or it has been recorded, sorry, and the link will be sent to you for those people who have joined and also registered for the event. So, and any other questions, please either contact one of us or please email the email address that's still on the screen. One final question that sneaked through. How long do you anticipate associate members remain before they become full members, and is it based on points accrued? The idea is that if they're demonstrating points, they're collecting more than their 20 allocated points per year, plus on reapplication they go over the limit in terms of what pushes them into a full membership score, then that membership can be reassessed. So it isn't that they have to be as an associate member for 2 years. It could be it triggers after a year. It could be it takes a few more years, but it is based on sort of how many points they're accruing and also the shift in their qualifications or experience within that sector or in their job. Okay. Anything to add, Stephen?
No, not from me, Liz. No, we're just looking forward to getting started now. I think this has been a really, really good step. Now we're looking forward to the 1st of June.
Thanks. And Phil, anything to add?
The only thing I'd like to add is a huge thank you to you, really, someone who's done an awful lot of work and effort, put a lot of work in behind this. So yeah, big thank you for all the work that you've done in the preparation. So thanks, Liz.
Thank you. I'm also looking forward to the 1st of June for many reasons. But, no, thanks everybody for joining. Yeah, any questions, please email through and look. And yes, the website will be up shortly, and a lot of the questions that we dealt with today there's a frequently asked questions section going onto the website that will also deal with them too. So thanks again for joining. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.